At E3 2017, Bioware finally revealed Anthem, the game they've been working on behind the scenes for several years. Some are excited, while others are asking, what about Mass Effect? Hey guys, JV here sharing my thoughts on Bioware after Anthem's reveal. As always, if you like what I do here and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. At EA's press conference, which was one of the worst by the way, Bioware had a little sneak peek of Anthem. It was about 45 seconds, there wasn't much to go on, a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of CG looking cutscenes, and then they saved the full gameplay reveal to close out the Microsoft conference on the next day. For me, Anthem was one of the most technically stunning games at EA or Microsoft. Of course, Sony has some great things going on, but there's such a massive sense of scale with this game and detail that you don't find with any other game of this size, and it was just gorgeous. We know that EA and Bioware plan for the game to be live service, so something that's constantly going to get updates and new content, and they've even come out and said, we believe there's going to be a 10-year life cycle for the Anthem franchise, whether it's just this game that gets constantly updated over that time, or whether there are going to be sequels similar to what we see with Destiny. Regardless, it's very clear for me what Bioware has been focusing on, and a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda fans, or just people who played the game, look at Anthem at E3 and think, oh, I get it now. Andromeda was handled by the B team at Bioware Montreal, and Anthem has been worked on by the A team at Bioware Edmonton. Just a refresher if you had forgotten, or maybe you didn't know at all, Bioware Edmonton is the studio that handled the original trilogy of Mass Effect. Bioware Montreal is the support studio that opened up a lot more recently that helped out with things like DLC for the original trilogy of Mass Effect, but Andromeda was their first full game. The reason I bring this up is because of the Kotaku report, and this is going to come full circle when we talk about Mass Effect Andromeda and problems that it had, because it is the first-hand account, if we can believe the sources, of what went wrong with the game and all of the development troubles. And if you missed this by chance, didn't see it on my channel, I've linked it again in the description below. Those sources claim that developers were being leached from Bioware Montreal, those who were working on Mass Effect Andromeda, to Edmonton to work on their secret project, which we now know is Anthem. Now again, we're not 100% sure that any of this is true, but if it is, along with all of the other development issues detailed in this report, it makes a lot of sense when you look at Andromeda and how it turned out. And same goes for Anthem. I mean, if you look at something very specific like facial animations, they are just so much better in what we've seen from Anthem so far. And I think it's fair to say that they definitely use mocap for important scenes in this game, and there's a lot of work left. We've only seen a very small slice of Anthem. But already, the faces that we saw look like something you'd seen out of Horizon Zero Dawn, or another very good AAA Sony PlayStation exclusive. Is this a matter of Bioware giving their Edmonton studio more resources, more money to work on this project versus Andromeda? We don't really know. We can speculate all day long, but what we've seen so far already looks far and away better than Andromeda, and it should, but again, we're running on the same engine here. We're running on Frostbite. And speaking of which, the Kotaku report really slammed Frostbite. At least the sources claim that it was a huge problem for Bioware, starting with Inquisition, not just Andromeda. And as we can tell in the trailer clearly, this game, Anthem, is running on Frostbite, so we have to wonder, is it better now? According to the report, the Andromeda team had a lot more troubles than just Frostbite, but if the Inquisition and Andromeda teams have had trouble using this engine and trying to rework it, you know, this is developed by DICE, used in Battlefield games, if they've had trouble trying to rework it and build out systems specifically for an RPG before, it makes me wary about Anthem, and I think it should make everyone a little worried. We are talking about a looter shooter, so there will be some soft RPG elements in there. Again, we're expecting something more like Destiny, but hopefully it does enough to distinguish itself. Undoubtedly, the game looks incredible, just like Andromeda does on a very good rig. I actually just completed my second playthrough of Andromeda, this time on PC on all ultra settings. It's a gorgeous game. I think a lot of people forget that, and there are certainly reasons to forget that with the other issues with the game. Regardless, Anthem looks incredible. It is technically stunning, and I think we have to thank Frostbite for that. A lot of people will tell you, no, I don't care about looks. I will not sacrifice looks for functionality in an RPG. I totally understand that. That makes perfect sense, but the game looks amazing. I wanted to circle back around to the concept of Bioware's A team being on Anthem and B team being on Mass Effect Andromeda, because I certainly believe that. I certainly believe that BioWare purposefully said, we're going to take our A team, our very best talent, all of our resources, and put them on Anthem. There is nothing to suggest otherwise at this point, and as a Mass Effect fan, that has to be frustrating, because this is your franchise. I love Mass Effect as well, but what I'm about to say might not qualify me as a fan. Mass Effect is 10 years old at this point. This year, it will be 10 years old. And right now, this makes sense on BioWare's part. Despite all of the hatred surrounding Mass Effect 3's ending and some of that carrying into Mass Effect Andromeda and not really judging the game on its own, it's not Mass Effect 4, it's a spin-off. It's Mass Effect Andromeda. Despite all of that, I enjoyed Mass Effect 3's ending, and I thought Andromeda was just fine. I thought it was a good game, not a great game. However, Andromeda being good is probably not good enough for BioWare, and at this point, after playing Andromeda, I want to see a new IP. If they don't plan to go back and tell more stories of the original trilogy, prequels like The Elusive Man before he became so influential, those are stories that I would love to experience again. Some people may disagree with me and say stick with Andromeda, but I would love to go back. Several years ago, in the planning stages of Andromeda, BioWare actually polled people on Twitter, I believe, and asked them if they'd like to see another story told in the Milky Way Galaxy back in time or move forward in time like Andromeda. And a lot of people wanted to move forward in time, so that's what they went with. But in hindsight, after Andromeda and after how this turned out, I'm not sure a lot of people would agree with that. The point I'm trying to make is I'm pleased with what I saw from Anthem, and it wasn't even that much. It was some legit gameplay, so we were actually watching gameplay, not a CG trailer, which is nice, but I thought it was good, and I think that BioWare should stick to that. From the short gameplay demo, it looks like what Destiny promised to be, but couldn't, and what Destiny 2 definitely won't be, because we've already seen enough of that game. And I'm not the only one saying that. A lot of people are sharing that sentiment on social media, in other YouTube videos, whatever it may be. That seems to be a popular opinion. So in terms of going the route of a new IP and trying to find success in another intellectual property, I think BioWare has it. But unfortunately, we can't just leave it at that, because we have this elephant in the room, and that's Mass Effect Andromeda. What about Mass Effect Andromeda? How is BioWare going to address this game and the Mass Effect franchise as a whole moving forward? Again, after my second playthrough, I think that Andromeda is a good game. It's not great, and it is certainly not terrible. Anyone pretending that this is a 5 out of 10 game is absolutely off their rocker, out of their mind. It's not even close. And if you don't agree with me, I suggest you take a stroll to your local GameStop and find that giant bin of used games, you know, the ones they just throw in that they never plan to sell. It's just like, if you want it, there it is. I'm sure you can find plenty of 5 out of 10 games there. After giving it more time, I agree with Metacritic scores. Generally, they land around 70 to 75% depending on the platform. I think that's completely fair. It draws a line between good and not great. I also need to address the group of people who are very furious, angry with BioWare for essentially abandoning Mass Effect Andromeda and the entire franchise. And to you, I say, I completely understand. I'm not one of you. I'm not furious with BioWare, and maybe that doesn't make me a fan. But I think we need to step back from fandom for a moment and realistically look at this situation. It just makes sense why BioWare would put Mass Effect on ice after the reception of Andromeda and the swirling hatred surrounding it. It was undeniably cool to hate on Mass Effect Andromeda. It was so cool to put something on social media about how bad the facial animations were. They were bad, right? But there was a social aspect to that, and BioWare, unfortunately in this day and age, could not weather the storm. It was that powerful. People were very vocal about it, even those that never even cared or even intended to touch the game. Now, I know Anthem was well into development, but think about this. Think about how this went down. Anthem is generally popular. People liked it. There was not, oh, that was underwhelming. That's not the general conversation. I think things would be very different if Anthem flopped. Maybe BioWare would go back to the drawing board with Mass Effect and think, yeah, we probably need to start working on our next game. We haven't heard anything like that, and maybe that's going on behind the scenes and we don't know it, but I've found that people are generally enthused about Anthem. They want to see more of the game. They're looking forward to it, and it's supposed to come out next year. That's a bit of a stretch for me. I'm thinking like spring 2019. Bottom line, I think what BioWare has done and it plans to do makes a lot of sense, given their recent track record with Inquisition, with Andromeda, with The Witcher 3 completely overshadowing both of those games. It makes sense for them to put their eggs in another basket, makes sense for their business and the future of them as a developer. All good things must come to an end, and I doubt this is the absolute end of Mass Effect. I'm sure we'll see another game several years down the line, but I'm not bitter about this decision, and I understand it, and I'm ready for Anthem. I want to see what's next with this game. I want to see what's next with Bioware. I'd love to know in the comment section below, what is your opinion of Bioware after Anthem's reveal and everything that's gone on with Mass Effect Andromeda? I'm sure there are plenty of you that will disagree with me, so if you do, or if you happen to think along the same lines that I am, share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're still watching and you enjoy the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link in the description below for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.